7 things I did to boost my Shopify sales. So this is going to be a conversion rate optimization guide, basic CRO breakdown, and some tips for you guys. So these are some results of some of my stores. So these are my 2 biggest stores, as you can see here. I might even blur like 1 or 2 details off this, but these are 2 of my biggest stores and some of the results in revenue. You can go add those up, and you can see the conversion rate on these 2 stores is not bad, right? It's pretty good. At the level that they're on, in the 6 figures over the lifetime of these stores, they stayed above a 2% conversion rate. Best ones are 2.6, but then the other one, which was scaled higher, is 2.37, so they're pretty good. Now that's an overall conversion rate as well. That's over the lifetimes of those stores and those figures, whereas maybe from day to day, week to week, sometimes the conversion rate may have been 4 to 5%. I think at some point it was like 6 or 7%, pretty crazy, but overall on average it stayed pretty stable at a respectable figure. So bear in mind that is with one store with 19k orders, the other one with 13.5k, and it still managed to stay at this conversion rate. So what did we do? So I'm going to go over a few useful things that you can put on your web page. I will probably make like a store building guide maybe in the next few days, maybe this week, on how to build a high converting store, and you can use some of these tips as well. So do subscribe because I'm going to drop that video soon. So urgency timers and low stock notifications. So when people buy and drop on your website, for the most part, we're actually trying to get them to buy on the spot. We're trying to increase urgency because we're mainly targeting people buying on impulse, particularly when we're advertising on Facebook. We're trying to get a scroll stop and getting people to obviously buy and close the sale, right? A little bit different if you're maybe selling on Google, for an example, because people are already searching for the item. You don't really always need to put as much pressure on. So this is going to create the buyer pressure and the fear of missing out. So this is the FOMO effect. We want to do this because we want them to believe that the item is going to go out of stock soon. Maybe this is the last sale for a long time where they can get this deal. This does work well. For an example, let's use Steam. On Steam, which is a video gaming platform if you're a little bit older, they do occasional sales every few months, and they'll put Steam games on sale for the computer. And basically, you have to wait maybe 3, 4, 5 months to actually get that game on sale again. So for most people on the platform, they'll know that, okay, there's a Steam Christmas sale. If I don't buy it now, I might have to wait till spring. So this usually works very good. If you have like an occasional seasonal sale or a specific duration where you're obviously selling something like a real sale, it works well. For the most part in e-commerce, we tend to allegedly use a lot of fake scarcity as well. That seems to work a lot. It obviously depends which region you're selling in. Obviously do read and follow the rules, but this is basically going to mean the buyer's going to think, okay, I need to buy it now rather than later, because you'll get a lot of people abandoning the cart if there's not enough urgency and perceived scarcity of the item. So this is mainly going to push those hesitant shoppers to actually make a faster buying decision, because if we don't convince them, we're not going to convert them. So here's some examples I've got on screen on this presentation. For an example, hurry up, sale ending in, sale ends once the timer hits 0. So this kind of makes them think, okay, when this counts down, even though in this example image it's 11 hours, seems like a long time, when it counts down, the sale ends, they've missed the chance. So let's say they're shopping late night, they might think, okay, it says 11 hours, but if I go to bed, maybe I wake up late and then I miss the sale, so they might still buy. So just stuff like that. You can also get apps and plugins for Shopify where the sales timer will reset. So every time they go on the website, maybe it'll reset, or it'll show like a random countdown time per visitor or per time that they visit the website, so it looks a little bit more legit, and it also seems like they're going to miss out on a great deal. So another example it shows here in the image 2, FOMO low stocks. This is a low stock counter. The first one's a sales timer, the second one's a low stock counter. So you're saying, okay, there's only 5 items left. If you don't buy now, maybe the other 5 customers will buy those last items. Okay, these also work really good together. I tend to use them both together on the product page. They work really great. Next up, replacing supplier images with real or AI UGC content. So in like 2023 onwards, I'd say there was like a huge push for UGC content. So that's user generated content, people making content on like TikTok, Facebook, Reels, all that kind of stuff, because it was better as organic advertising. That's like when you saw the huge breakthrough in like 22, 23 of TikTok organic, people making content organically without using paid media or paid ads to advertise, and a lot of people made a lot of money off it. Reason being is because a lot of people had got really tired of real advertisements or obvious advertisements because people weren't really being creative in the way that they could sell things. So UGC kind of blew up took off, people wanted to buy from other people rather than a faceless entity. That's why obviously back in the day, brands like Gymshark used a lot of normal people, like average gym guys. They turned into kind of celebrities as well, right? Because people wanted to buy from influencers. So that's where influencer marketing came from, and then later UGC, stuff like that. So what you want to do is instead, let's say you're doing general fashion dropshipping for an example. I know a lot of Europeans do that. Instead of using those AliExpress images, which can work, I see a ton of them converting in the ad library. But if you want to stand out, particularly if you've got people competing in the same pool or the same market, take that winning product and then make your own content for it. So if you're doing general dropshipping, you could just make AI content really easy. Use like Gemini, Nano Banana for an example, or another tool. I hear that there's other websites you can use too. I'm not affiliated, so I'm not going to promote them. You can even generate stuff with ChatGPT. Make your own creative images, obviously all about the prompting, make some good ones. Make them look branded, and especially if you're selling to older people who don't recognize AI as easily, you can make a really good, believable branded store. So that's really good if you're low on budget and if you're not actually doing branded dropshipping. Otherwise, you can just obviously get real UGC. So if you want like an authentic, trustworthy brand, you can pay models. Now, I've done a video on my channel. If you click on my channel, I did a video ages ago on how to use Shopify collabs. That's really good. I used that for my brand when I was like getting models and paying people for content. That works really well. And you can also just contact people directly through Instagram. So I would find models on Shopify collabs, I DM them on Instagram, and then I just arrange a deal. You can do this on like a personal account, or if you've got a brand page, really doesn't matter, works on both. But this is just to make your store and brand just generally look more trustworthy, and it feels more authentic and native to social media, particularly if you're using user-generated content, which is why a lot of people rip content off calorie data for an example, is because when people see the ad on the feed, it just looks like a user could have posted it rather than it just being an obvious ad. People obviously know what UGC is now with like TikTok Shop blown up, but it still works really well. So here's some examples. So this is just like a random influencer's post who's done a partnership with Nike Women. Obviously Nike's a huge brand. And then the second one's just like a generic example of like some fake AI UGC models, right? So you get the deal. I prefer AI images, but it depends on the product because I use a combination of both. On one of my stores, I use a lot of AI content because it's just like general dropshipping, it's not branded, but both work really well. I had some experience with working with models for one of my stores, which is a real brand. That particular store didn't take off to big figures, so I've used more AI and I know both work, but I have more experience and success with AI content. There's tons of brands using real UGC and you can tell it obviously clearly works, right? And we take a lot of content, allegedly repurpose and use it and it converts, so we already know UGC works well anyway, even as dropshippers. Next up, improving the offer. So the first winning product, main big winning product I had, it originally didn't work. I literally just copied it off ad library on one of the platforms and it didn't work. I don't know why I tried it again or kept trying it. I think it's just because I saw so many people selling it. The only thing that I did different is I changed the offer. Now I can't remember if I copied the offer from a second competitor or if I copied the offer from a different type of product and applied it to that product. I think that's what I did. So I saw like an offer work really well for a different winning product and then I put it on mine and then it just converted really well. And then from there, I also changed the market. So I can't remember which order I did that in, but you could literally have a winning product, but the only things that are stopping you from profiting with it is usually two things in my experience personally. So that one was the market and the offer, because sometimes the market can be so saturated that it's just really hard to compete or it just won't work for you. But if you move it over to a different market, it will work. You'll see a lot of people getting success. They either moved it to a different market or they did a different offer to the competitor or they cloned the offer but made it better than theirs. So there's a lot of different variables to that, but this one's the offer, so you can do a lot of things with this. So you can add bundles, you can do bulk discounts. Bulk discounts is what I've had the most success with, as well as bundles. So you could give someone something with the product, like a free gift or like a bonus, or you can even make it seem like a perceived free gift. And bulk discounts too, so like buy 2 10% off, buy 3 15% off. That's very common in fashion, so bulk discounts work really well for that. Depends on the item though, because you can't really bulk discount like a leather jacket. I mean, I guess you can, it depends on the product, because for an example in fashion, not everyone's going to buy multiple of one item. Like if it's a really nice looking women's coat that's quite expensive, they're probably usually not going to buy two in my experience. But yeah, you need to make your offer irresistible, and it needs to be a grand slam offer per se. So this offer particularly as well, if it increases AOV, so that's average order value, if you get them to buy more than one item, that works really well too. So certain niches, you'll see people have a good AOV because people buy more items. So for an example, let's say a clothing store is going to sell a bundle of socks. People usually buy more socks. They need more socks because the socks usually get holes in them. So that's like a product that constantly sells and they get refills for, which is kind of like a unique area in that niche in fashion because only certain clothes get replaced, right? People buy shoes because they've got to get new shoes. They got holes in them too. Supplements, people bulk buy them. That's why supplements and subscriptions are huge in e-commerce as well. There's a lot of supplement brands because people get recurring revenue, MRR, etc. So you're basically just trying to increase your AOV. So if you can get a good offer that also increases the AOV, that's going to make you a lot more profitable. And if you have a winning product and then you can boost it with bulk discounts, bundles, you're basically going to make a lot more money. This worked really well for me in my niche, but not everyone's going to be able to do this. It really depends which niche you're going to get into. So it's kind of better to get into a niche where you can sell more things together in bulk rather than just one item. It's all well and good people selling these gimmicky products, which I personally haven't had much success with gimmick products. I know they work, products with like a wow factor, like the astronaut projectors and stuff, but I've never really been able to successfully sell those. I don't know if it's just a skill issue or what, but I just feel like those products are also kind of bad as well in the sense that you might be able to make a lot of money with them while they're viral, but is someone really going to buy 2 or 3 astronaut projectors? Probably not, unless they want like a whole house that looks like a disco in every kid's bedroom, but each to their own, I guess. Social proof pop-ups also really nice. This is good for conversion rate. So for an example, I've written here, Anne from Wisconsin just bought this. Wisconsin, it's an American state. Most of my viewers are American. Most people on YouTube are American, so I just use an American example. So this triggers herd behavior, right? And it also builds instant trust because social proof, people want to know, have other people taken the risk before me? If it's verified, they've taken the fall before I have. Now I know that it works. Now I know it's trusted. It's not a scam. Let me try it. So if you have these pop-ups, these also work really well. From experience, they're really useful to add. And if you're showing that someone's already bought, especially if there's like sale pop-ups from today or the last few days, then people know these stores active, the store's still being purchased from, and they'll want to buy from the store. So that's just a way to add social proof. Sticky add to cart is a must. Now Shopify, in the like new theme they're pushing, the Horizon theme, where they have like the whole AI thing where you can add like elements and stuff, I'll show that off in another video. They do have sticky add to cart, I believe, natively in the theme now by default. If you're not using a theme with this, you can get plugins to add this. I just use plugins for this. You can also code it yourself in Shopify code, Liquid. If you don't know how to do that, use AI or just pay for a developer. But this is what's shown here, this like little rectangle at the bottom of the screen to the left of my camera where it says the product and then the size, variance, quantity picker, and then the add to cart button and the price. Above the fold, basically, you have the add to cart button, the quantity, and everything right on the product page at the top. Now when a user scrolls down, if you have like a long vertical product page where there's like a lot of stuff in your funnel, they won't be able to see the add to cart, so they might read all that stuff or they might read half and then just click off because they can't be able to scroll up. If you have a sticky add to cart, it basically captures those distracted or lazy users who don't want to scroll. So it basically helps close lazy people because they might read a bit and then get bored. People have TikTok brain, right? So this is basically for the purpose of just keeping the buy button visible at all times down the page. It's as simple as that. I'd recommend doing it because it's going to help with your abandoned cart rate. Enabled one-page checkout. So this isn't really too big of a thing nowadays because if I'm aware, no one really uses, I think, was it a 3-step checkout before? I think it was a 3-step checkout. It might be in 4, but I'm pretty sure it was a 3-page checkout pre like 24 or something. I think this came in 2024, but I might be wrong. 1-page checkout, instead of having 3 pages where like you typed in your address, you typed in like some other information, then like you typed in your payment information. It was like a 3-step system where you had to like click through multiple pages. They basically consolidated that into a 1-page checkout. So the purpose of this is it removed the friction from the multi-step checkout flow because yet again, lazy people, bored people, distracted people, busy people might not want to go through the whole process. And also it adds more stages in between. It's that friction where they can change their mind in a short time and think, okay, you know what, this is kind of too hard in comparison to how much I want it. Do I really want the item for this much effort? Probably not. I was buying on impulse, can't be bothered, click off. So you're basically optimizing it. So it's 1 page, they type in everything, they buy, they can regret it later, but then they've already bought it, right? And then the likelihood that they're going to bother bother cancelling it is very low. So it just increases the conversion rate because it makes for a faster checkout. You can enable this in Shopify. I think it's already on by default now. Don't change it. Don't go to 3-page checkout because it's just unanimously worse. It's been split tested by enough people to know that this is a much better system. This is the last one, I believe. So add FAQs. FAQs, what's FAQs? FAQs is frequently answered questions. This is going to be used to handle objections. So you're basically answering common questions before they become objections. So if someone's thinking in the head, what could go wrong with this product? What are the features of this product? You know, you're explaining to them before they can ask the question and then wonder why it's not being answered, okay? Because your whole funnel for your product page needs to explain everything about the product, the possible things that could go wrong and why they won't go wrong, and then all the benefits of the product, and then kind of telling the tale of the user experience that they'll actually get when they buy it. So you're going to answer the common questions before they become objections, and this is going to reduce anxiety in the customer when they're overthinking, and it's going to increase purchase confidence. This is what I do. So this is just an example of an FAQ. You basically have frequently asked questions and general information in the form of drop downs. You'll have the question, and then when they click the arrow, it'll show like the answer to the question. So do you offer free shipping? How do I order this? Do you need to refill this product? Stuff like that. You can ask the AI like ChatGPT all the common objections the customer might have about this particular product you're selling, and also if you feed it like the product information itself and the avatars you're selling to, it'll get a better gauge and idea on how to actually answer that for you, and then you can ask it to do like a full Q&A based on it, and it'll work really well. So that's what I recommend. What am I doing next? Well, I'm actually working on a custom Shopify theme which I'm updating right now. It's the one which I used for all my other stores. Right now I'm only running 2 stores, but before I was running a lot of experimental stores in other markets. Some of them did pretty good, some of them didn't, but basically what worked well from all this split testing, what's working well for me right now, I'm building it all into a theme with custom elements, and it's going to include all the conversion and boosting features that I mentioned here, and then some other additional ones too. Now if you want the same theme that I used on my dropshipping store, good news, this theme is made to share with you guys. It's also made to sell, because I use this theme to sell to not only multiple EU markets but also the big 5, so big 5 English countries. If you want all the conversion rate features done for you, click the link down below. This is going to be a more economic and cheaper alternative to some of the really expensive themes out there, so you can buy this before you upgrade, or you can use this instead. So do check that out. You can click the link here on screen. I'll try and put that in the description. And then next up, to close out this video, because I've given you all this free value, I do break down all of this conversion rate information step by step in my community in the learning plus more. There's tons of learning videos in there. There's like 50 plus lessons and a bunch of modules which is covering testing and scaling with ads, product research, market momentum, branding and more. So if you want deeper lessons on the whole conversion rate optimization systems and funnels and what to do, and the testing and scaling with media buying, you can join this community. Just click the link below on screen. It's just my website. I'll link it down below in the description as well if you want to join. Entirely optional, but make sure to like this video and subscribe, because I am coming back to content this year and I want to share a whole bunch of stuff I'm learning in e-commerce. So I'm just going to be testing all myself and then sharing it on this channel for completely free. If you want to join the community too, that's on you. And I'll try and put some videos on screen right now that'll be useful to you, or that YouTube thinks that might be valuable for you or your business. So click those as well.